Saturday night. I pray for the wicked on the weekend. Mama, can I get another amen? It's Saturday night. Swear to God, I ain't never gonna repent. Mama, can I get another amen?
Yeah! Thanks for joining. I know it's not exactly Saturday night yet. It's actually still Friday afternoon here, but I am excited. This is my first video that I'm making in a long time. I've made a couple that I've tried to make, but they just quite didn't work as I wanted them to. So today, I'm really going to work on trying to make this one look a little bit more professional. We're going to go through all of the matches in week 28. We're going to talk about my predictions for the rest of the year, and we are going to talk about the rest of the top four and how that's going to play out. So, thank you for joining. This is my first video. If you like it, go ahead and subscribe. It'll be somewhere down here. I'm not sure exactly. We'll figure it out someday. So, thanks for coming along with me, and let's take a look. We're going to start with some of these matches earlier. So, the first one we're going to look at is Wolves versus Cardiff. Wolves are the big favorites in this one. I think Wolves are actually been a pretty interesting team, but one of the things that they've really struggled with are these lower level teams, and it'll be interesting to see how they're able to do. I don't know exactly where I heard it, but I think it was something that Huddersfield, a team that is just historically bad, has been able to get something like 40% of their overall points that they've earned this season from Wolves. And that's actually pretty surprising because I think Wolves probably have ambitions to be one of the 6-7 best teams in the league. Going to be top challenging for that Europa League spot next year, I'm sure. So it'll be interesting to see if they're able to keep that going. The next match is going to be the Manchester City versus Bournemouth. Manchester City are big favorites for this one. They will have a chance to put pressure on Liverpool in the Merseyside derby. I think going into the rest of the season, Manchester City will always have played first going for until the very last game when everybody plays at the same time. So it'll be interesting to see if Liverpool can handle that pressure and not slip up. Yeah. Next, we're going to look at Burnley versus Crystal Palace. I've actually been pretty impressed with Crystal Palace this year. Roy Hodgson has able to do well with this team. I like the two strikers. The one striker that they brought in, and having Christian Benteke back has really made them a much better team, less Wilfried Zaha dependent. So I think that Crystal Palace should be a good team. Although Burnley have done a pretty good job of bouncing back. They're not quite to their levels of last season, but they're still a good team. I think that they're going to survive. They're not going to be relegated, and they seem to be pretty good out of that race right now. Next is Brighton and Hove Albion versus Huddersfield Town. This one is important for the relegation fight. I've always had Brighton pretty comfortably above the relegation fight, but they have come through some bad form lately, and they are getting pulled back in. They have a chance to go to Huddersfield and get a win, or actually co-face Huddersfield. It's at Brighton, and to get a win. I actually have them as the very slight favorites in this one, so it'll be interesting to see. This is almost a 6-pointer for them if they can't do it, although Huddersfield are all but relegated. I think I have them at 99.996%, according to my model, so it would basically take a miracle for them to no longer be relegated. Next, we have West Ham versus Newcastle, the United Derby. The ones that probably get mad that everybody always refers to United as the team from Manchester when these two teams are also United. Newcastle have actually been starting to play pretty well under Rafa Benitez. They have the new guy from MLS, Amaron. I'm excited. I'm actually surprised that MLS is coming back. That's 2 days away. Actually, tomorrow. That's crazy. It seems like that was, just a couple weeks ago that the MLS Cup was just wrapping up. So, go Earthquakes. See if you can not finish in last place again. That'd be nice. Back to West Ham and Newcastle. This one, I don't know. I think West Ham's going to do it. Although I don't quite have as much faith in West Ham as, Arsblog did. So we'll see how they do. I think this is going to be a good match to watch. Wait, what's this? Uh-oh. It's Brendan Rodgers music. He's back. He's back. Oh, yeah. I'm so excited to have Brendan Rodgers back in my life, hosting, Leicester City at Watford. It'll be a good one, a tough match for him. This is probably one of the premier matches among the teams that are in that mid-table. It's nice to actually have a mid-table this season. It's something that has been a bit of a struggle in the Premier League lately. Where there's been a top tier that's pretty clear, and then there's a whole lot of crap below. But this year, Watford, Leicester, Everton, even West Ham has been a good team. Wolves coming up out of the championship have all been really good teams. So I think that going forward, we're going to have some interesting, tough teams that'll be down there facing. Next, we got the Merseyside Derby. Or Derby, I'm American. I'm not gonna, kind of go out of my way to say things, how British people do. Although I don't know, is that appropriation? I don't know. I don't know what the wokeness level is for those kinds of things. Liverpool, although they haven't been quite in as good a form as they were earlier in the season, they've still been getting points. They actually had a pretty impressive performance over the midweek. So I think that they should be favorites in this one. It's going to be at Everton, but I still think that they should get all 3 points here. Next, we're going to kind of go back into talking about the top 4. So what I want to do next is bring in the top table here, the prediction for everything, see where things are going for the title, the top 4, and then the relegation. So let's take a look at that. For the title race, I still have Liverpool as the favorites, but it's actually narrowed down quite a bit. As I was going through things this morning, I noticed that there was a bug in the code that actually had Liverpool with an extra point. So that kind of pushed them up above where I expected them to be. So it's almost down to 50-50. They have the slight lead. You look at the average points, it's 88.8 to 88.6. So over the last remainder of the season, I do expect Manchester City to be better. So I think that this is going to be an interesting one, and it's going to come down to the wire. Both teams have pretty much locked up top 4, so there's nothing to worry about there. Moving down to the rest of the teams, it's Tottenham, followed by Arsenal, Chelsea, and Manchester United. I think this is going to be a pretty interesting top 4 fight. For Arsenal, it really, really comes down to the next 2 games. And then after that, they've got a relatively easy schedule to have to deal with. Tottenham, they have a pretty tough schedule. It's not exactly easy. They're still in the Champions League, and they look to have been able to get past Dortmund. So they're going to have a round of 8 quarterfinal matchup that they will have to play, and they're going to have to figure out a way to balance between the two. Because if they get caught back into this top 4 race, they're going to probably want to move that, but they haven't won a trophy, and not that I'm saying that they can win the Champions League, but as their fan base, is it really going to allow them to really kind of, just say the Champions League, it doesn't matter? I don't think that that's really going to happen. Chelsea, I think that they probably, are back on track. It'll be interesting to see if the Kepa drama is completely gone now. I think that, there's rumors that he's going to be dropped for one more game. And then we have Manchester United. I have them as the third favorite. And, I was actually surprised. I looked at the form table, and we'll have that up in a second here. But they've been getting points, but they've been kind of getting points undeservedly. And that, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, while he's been a good manager for them getting points-wise, he actually hasn't really changed the performances all that much, in my opinion, and something that is probably something that they could do better still. So I think that they still have the longest odds to actually make the top 4 of the teams. Now, switching gears down to the bottom of the table, we got Huddersfield. Yeah, like I was saying, they are all but relegated. Fulham are about in that same spot. Both of those I have pretty much in my head of writing them off going to the Championship. Next, we got Cardiff, followed by Brighton, Burnley, and Newcastle. So I think this one, the Brighton Huddersfield match, is going to be the biggest one for that, and that'll probably be the match that I watch at 7 a.m. Just to get an idea of what's going on there. I always love a good relegation battle. I love to be able to see what's going on there. And that'll bring us into the next section here, where we're going to talk about the form of these top teams as we move on. So let's pull that up. All right. Yeah, so like I was talking about, Manchester United, so they have 11 points from their last 5 league matches, but they have only, they scored 9, allowed 3, but a lot of that is down to David De Gea really being that octopus again. So he is allowing less than half of the goals that would be expected at this point. So they have a goal difference of 6, but an expected goal difference of only 1.5. Everybody has been overperforming, basically, according to what I said, except for Chelsea, who a lot of that is going down to their major defeat against Manchester City, where they gave up 6 and really only gave up maybe 2 or 3 by expected goals. So that's something to keep an eye on. Spurs, they're struggling. I think that I don't think Harry Kane is quite back to top form that he is. I think they're missing Dele Alli. Son has played a lot. He's traveled a lot, going back between Europe and Asia for all of the games that he's had to play. So I'm not sure if he's quite in the same form that he was in the middle of the season when he was absolutely tearing it up. So if I was a Spurs fan, I'd be worried about them. All right, so now let's switch gears and take a look at the final matches for this week. So we're going to look at the rest of the top 4. First, we're going to look at Manchester United versus Southampton. In this one, I got Manchester United as the favorites. I've liked Southampton. My models liked them the entire time, and if we go back to kind of what we looked at earlier, they still are relatively safe according to what I say. I say that they only have a 2% chance of being relegated. I don't know if I quite believe that, because I think that they are probably in more trouble than what the model is saying, just because they've played well but haven't been able to get results this year. So let's go back to the match. So this one, Manchester United is favored. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if Southampton was able to do something. I think that they have played well, and I think that this is something that with Manchester United's injury problems, they didn't play well against Crystal Palace, but they still ended up with a 3-1 victory. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to do that same thing against Southampton, especially with Southampton so desperate to be able to get points and get out of the relegation battle. All right, next is Fulham versus Chelsea. If Chelsea don't win this, then they are in big trouble. Fulham are not good. This is a match that Chelsea should probably look to really up their goals scored and try to bank some goal difference for the fight, because I think that top 4 race might come down to goal difference, where something like that is going to be important. And last but not least, the North London Derby. So I've got Tottenham as the favorites. And honestly, I'm not expecting an Arsenal win. Actually, any result for Arsenal, to me, just feels like gravy, because I think the one that's going to be super important is Manchester United coming up right after this. I think that the result's probably going to be 2 goals to Tottenham, 1 goal for Arsenal. I'm hoping that Arsenal are able to really come out and they're going to press Tottenham early. Tottenham's midfield is in trouble. They've got injuries all over the pitch. So I think that is something that they can really do. Arsenal, they've been able to rotate quite well lately, so everybody's been able to get some rest, to be able to stay match sharp while still getting the rest in their legs, so everybody's in top form. I think this is a match where you can go out, similar to what Arsenal did in the first match that was at the Emirates. Maybe pick a couple of players and say, go out there, give me 45 minutes of all you got, give me 60 minutes, give me something that's really hard running, and then we'll get you out. It's not because you're playing bad, but just because we expect you to use all that energy early. And I think that that's something that they can use to their advantage to be able to get goals. I think it's going to be a Granit Xhaka, Lucas Torreira midfield. I'm not sure if it's going to be the back 5 or if they're going to go with the back 4. I lean towards the back 3 with the 2 wing backs. And I think it's going to be Lichtsteiner in on the right. So it'll be interesting what goes in. The front 3, I think you might see Iwobi, Mkhitaryan, Lacazette, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's Ramsey on the right for Mkhitaryan in that role. I think this would be a great match for him. He has the experience in the North London Derby. He knows how to do it, and one of the things that he is so good at is running and being able to apply pressure over the match. So it'll be an interesting match to be able to do. So I think it'll be a good one. This will just take me an opportunity. So, I got my stuff down here. If you're not following me on Twitter, I don't know why you wouldn't be. It's awesome. I tweet things. I also got the CrabStats graphics. I don't have my Twitter up here for it. So if you like the graphics I do, a lot of them are now migrating over there because I don't want to spam everything that I do for the on the Oh That Crab account. That's always a funny name. I get that, going, what does that mean? If you are curious, it goes back to my time as a San Francisco Giants fan, which is not a great time right now as there's, drama in Giants land. All right, let's take a look at the remaining fixtures and fire up the Predictatron. I did this a little bit earlier with the guys from Arsenal Vision, but I'm going to kind of go through all of the teams. So I know Arsblog and Gunnerblog did this earlier and was pretty interesting. So let me just go through it pretty quick. Spurs, I expect 3 points for them today or tomorrow against Arsenal. I think 3 points against Southampton, 1 point against Crystal Palace. I expect a loss at Liverpool. 3 points against Brighton, 3 against Huddersfield, 0 against Manchester City, 3 against West Ham. I know the fighting ham. Sorry, Andrew, I don't believe you and the Hammers being good. 3 points against Bournemouth and 0 at the end of the season against Everton. All right, now let's look at the next team, and we got Arsenal. So yeah, unfortunately, I predict 0 to tomorrow in the derby. I got 3 against Manchester United, 1 against Wolves. I think that's going to be a tough match for them. Wolves are a good team, and they really match up well against teams that are in the top 6. I think that Arsenal are going to be able to get 3 points against Newcastle. I think Everton's going to be a tough match. The Arsenal are going to do poorly. Watford away. I know this has been a bogey team for Arsenal in the past, but I think they got 3 points in them. 3 points against Crystal Palace, 1 point against Brendan Rodgers, Leicester City. I think he's going to have that team firing at that point. I think it's going to be a pretty good team. And I wouldn't be surprised if Leicester really round into form the rest of the season. Feel free to AKA favorite this and remind me about my stupid prediction later this year. All right, then we move to Brighton. I think 3 points and 3 points to finish this match or the season at Burnley. I think that'll be an interesting one because I think the season is still going to be on the line. I think top 4 is going to be decided on that last day. All right, let's switch gears over to Manchester United. I think against Southampton, they got a win. Although I don't think it's going to be easy, but I still predict that we got 3 points here. I said Arsenal are going to beat them. I think they're going to lose to Manchester City. I think that after that, I think that's going to be where things start to really kind of go downhill. I think they got a win at hosting Watford. I think they're going to lose at Wolves. The win against West Ham. Again, sorry, Andrew, I don't think West Ham is that good, and I don't think they're going to get these big victories that you foresaw. And then we got Everton. I think they're going to get a point there. They're going to get a point at Chelsea, and I think that's going to be really important. I think both teams are going to be fighting hard. I think Chelsea are probably going to be in 4th place, but this is going to really pull them back, and I think Arsenal will have a chance to catch them. Huddersfield, I think that Manchester United get 3 points there, and they're going to get 3 points at the end of the season for Cardiff. They are probably going to, predict to finish below Arsenal, though. Let's look at the last team, and that's Chelsea. I got 3. I think they're going to go on a big winning run here. So I got wins against Chelsea, Fulham, Wolves, Everton, Cardiff, and West Ham. But then they got Liverpool. And I think this is going to be one where they're going to start to slip up and they're going to go through a bit of a rough patch. So I see them losing at Liverpool. I see them getting a point against Burnley. Burnley, I think, are just going to cause them trouble. I think Sarri's going to, if Sarri's still with the team, that's a big question. But after a big winning run like they had there, and I imagine they will still be doing well in the Europa League. I imagine that, Sarri will still be there. I think Burnley is a type of team that, isn't going to mind not having the ball. They're really going to mess up the middle of the pitch. They're going to stay low and compact, and they are just going to expect Chelsea to pass around, invite crosses where they are so good at dealing with them and not have any problems. Manchester United, they're also going to be a draw, so that's going to be 3 games without a win. And then they're going to get a win at Watford. Or facing Watford, I'm sorry. I can't remember who's home, who's away these days. And then it's all going to come down to the last game of the season where they faced Brendan Rodgers and Leicester. I have them getting a draw. And if we look at the next screen, my prediction, that 1 point is going to be enough to edge above Arsenal. So we're going to be finding ourselves really rooting for Brendan Rodgers as Arsenal fans at that last game of the season. It's going to be a bit disgusting. Those big, teeth. He's going to be looking at himself in his, painting in his, house in Leicester. And we're going to be rooting for him. So I expect Spurs to finish with 79, Chelsea with 77, Arsenal with 76, Manchester United with 72. So I still think that this is going to come down to the end. So it's going to be an interesting end to the season. All right, so that's really it that I have for today for the regular content. So this would be normally where I start talking about my sponsor. I don't have a sponsor because, well, I'm a new guy just making videos. So today, we're going to have Beer Minute. Today, we are brought by Drake's The Dark Wing. It's an enjoyable dark RPA. Also, brought to you by CaliCraft, a very delicious local brewery here in Walnut Creek, California. So if you enjoyed the show, I'm glad you joined. I hope we're able to do this again. All sorts of good stuff. I hope these two guys are able to have a good match here against Spurs. I hope my prediction is wrong. I hope it finishes, 10-0 to the Arsenal, just like Elliot always says. I can imagine why he says that now, because it makes it feel so much better. Again, thank you for watching. I'll try to do this more often. I really enjoyed this. We've been doing live videos on the Arsenal Vision podcast. Enjoy us and join us there. So thank you guys. Goodbye.